Good morning, everybody. My name is Carolyn, and I am with Midwest Manufacturers Association. And today we are presenting our workforce development webinar series, Gen Z Unlocked. And I want to thank our webinar sponsor, Biz Recycling, for sponsoring us today. So I will go ahead and turn it over. We will start with Ry Bostrom from the Repurposed Educator. It's all yours, Ry.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. We're glad to be back at the CMMA. Erica and I presented a few months ago in person at one of your recent events. So thanks for having us back. We're excited to talk to you guys about Gen Z Unlocked. It's kind of that a popular subject in today's workforce is how do we deal with Gen Z? So I'm going to kick it off just a little bit about us. As Carolyn mentioned, I'm Ry Bostrom, and this is my team. We are the Repurposed Educator, and you might have guessed that we are all former educators just by our name, and somehow we ended up in the construction world. So a little bit of background from myself, how I got here, and then my friends here will share theirs, but I am a former special educator. I worked in K through two primary special ed as like an autism teacher. And then later on in my career, I was K-12, more of like a teacher development, specifically with students with behavior challenges. So I would help program students who were having challenging behaviors. After COVID happened, a theme that you'll probably hear as well, things just really started to change, and I had started taking some classes for my school counseling track, and I just wasn't feeling the impact anymore. So I decided to leave and join my friend Katie here's business, DW Companies, and I started there, where we're all a part of that company as well, an excavation company located in Cambridge, Minnesota. And there I do social media and marketing, and I've been here for close to 4 years now. So Katie will talk a little bit more about our history.
Sure. Hi, I'm Katie Bjorklund-Strinlin. I also, as she said, was in education. I was there for about 14 years in Forest Lake School District. I taught mainly sixth grade, and then I moved into kind of a professional development role and worked in curriculum development and helped support other educators in the classroom with their curriculum. About the time COVID hit, it was just slightly before, we had decided, Steve and I, that I would take a break from education and come join what he wanted to create at DW Companies. And so one of my key requirements, if I was going to leave education, is that we were going to professionally develop our team. And at that point, he didn't really know what that meant. He just was like, great, sounds good. Come run the books for me. And I don't care, I'll read anything. So from there, Repurposed Educator has grown and become a thing. I don't think originally when we started, it was going to really be here at DW Companies, but because we shared our story on different social channels, we've had a lot of people reach out wanting to know what we're doing, where we're getting our resources, and how to do the same thing with their team. Thus the reason Repurposed Educator was born. It started with just Ry and I, and then we eventually outgrew that and needed an additional person, and that's where Erica came in. At DW, I also run all of HR, compliance and payroll, benefits, etc. I like to think of my role as a proactive HR person rather than a traditional HR role.
I'm Erica, and as Ry said, former educator. I actually worked in the Forest Lake School District with Katie. Generally, fifth grade teacher, mostly. I did sixth grade as well as media. But like Ry said, COVID hit and things just changed. I taught for 11 years. The last 2 years, I ended in a peer coaching position, mainly helping teachers. And I was even burnt out in that based on what happened with COVID. And I reached out to Katie to say, what do you do? What do you do when, you know, the impact and the passion is gone in teaching? I don't know what else to do. And she invited me to DW to see what they do here and see a professional development day with the team. And I was blown away. And I just got blessed with the opportunity to become a part of this team based on the growth of Repurposed Educator and also what they needed at DW companies. And so here I mainly run the front office and work with small project side of things with bids and quotes. And the gatekeeper in the front office.
One of the things that's important to us, if you are able to, we'd love to see your faces as the educators and us like really crave that connection with people. So if you wouldn't mind, turn on your cameras. We love to see the interaction, and there's going to be times for you guys to engage and chat as well. So again, just a reminder, keep those cameras on if you're willing.
All right. So what is DW Companies? DW Companies is an excavation company based out of Cambridge. We kind of alluded to some of that already. There were 5 individuals that left another company, very experienced. My husband and Rye's husband actually were part of that 5 when we started DW Companies. And so they came with a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience, and very driven to do dirt work better. And that meant everything better, not just simply what we were doing on the job sites, but we also were going to do better for our people, our community, and our team members. And so that's the reason our tagline is doing dirt work better. It's all things. That's our core value. And that's what we live by every single day.
I think it's important to note too that our team currently is made up of 80% Gen Z and millennials. So it kind of goes with our presentation today of how we are incorporating and kind of making sure that we are touching the needs of that population in our workforce.
So to kick things off with Gen Z Unlocked, in the chat, we would love if you would answer this question with us. What has been your biggest struggle in your workplace when it comes to working with Gen Z? So if you could just put that in the chat, we'd love to hear what you think your biggest struggle is in your workplace when it comes to working with Gen Zers.
Don't be shy. We've heard it all.
Expectations, attendance, and punctuality. Communication.
Very different communicators.
Very different.
How about that they're lazy?
Punctuality, another one.
Entitlement.
Entitlement.
Lack of loyalty. Constant hand-holding. Yep, that's a good one.
All the gripes we've heard before, for sure.
Less work-focused. Yeah, we'll cover that one. Expectations of other employees for them to be the same as other generations. It's impossible. Perfect. Thank you for doing that.
So we are going to kind of create the why behind this generation and help you get a better understanding first of this generation. And then we're going to talk about specific strategies that you can implement within your organization that may help really attract and retain this newest generation. Because the reality is they're coming and we are losing some of our older generations out of the workplace. And so we are going to have to figure out how to navigate this new generation. One thing that we didn't mention, I think that we've been involved with a lot of other manufacturing companies. We have found that there's a ton of parallel in both industries. That kind of happened by accident. We had somebody join our peer groups from a manufacturing organization. And from there, we've been involved in manufacturing quite a bit, especially with some of the grant money with the state of Minnesota. So lots of fun connections. So every generation is built. If you think about what you think about for your music, what you like to do, it probably all stems back to what was happening in your formative years or the things that you liked from your formative years. So some of the common themes that we see through every generation, war and global events definitely impact how you grow up and thus impact how you show up in the real world as well as work. The economy, what was the economy like when you were growing up? what technology advancements came about during those formative years. What was popular then? Movies, toys, games, music. You probably still are drawn to the music of your childhood, of your teens especially. And then what was the parenting style like? What was considered to be a good parent?
So in front of you, you'll see the generations listed there, and it's more of a spectrum rather than defined dates. The generations start and stop dates are vary from source to source. We went with one that was more with the Census Bureau. But if you look at the spans that you have in front of you, what's important is more of what Katie said, that the generations are built based on what's happening in your formative years and not necessarily the span of dates. But if you wouldn't mind, we're kind of curious as to what generations we have with us. So if you wouldn't mind putting in the chat what generation you are from. I'm a millennial.
Millennial.
I'm a Gen Xer.
Right on the cusp, 85, 1985. So just curious what we have here today. Some Zennials, some Gen Xers, Millennials, Zennials. Okay. Perfect.
Good mix.
It's a nice mix.
So Katie mentioned how generations are built, and what you're looking at on the screen are some significant pop culture and social event issues that happened during the last 10 to 20 years, right where that Gen Z has grown up in. So we look at this as the first generation that has lived in a post-internet world. So they've lived their entire life with access to all information at their fingertips, basically. They've watched their parents go through the Great Recession. We've obviously heard about the COVID-19 pandemic. A lot of them, obviously missed proms and graduations and things because of this pandemic. We have lots of social change and social justice issues. We're talking about Black Lives Matter, Me Too, climate change, a really heavy emphasis on self-care and mental health. Just lots of things happening in this generation that was important to them.
And the things that were happening in this time created a time of turbulence and instability for them, but there is a hope for a better future that they have. And this continues to be a generational confidence gap caused by the COVID-19 and the extensive social media usage. Gen Z is entering the workforce lacking self-belief and burdened by the comparative trap. So what you see in front of you is the results and the commonalities of what happened and how they were shaped by it. So they were shaped, and now they have anxiety, fear of failure and taking risks, financial uncertainty, less interest in college degrees, which yay for us, right? Winning promotions just for showing up. Everybody gets a trophy. They like to utilize different forms of communication. They avoid phone calls. Instant gratification, they need that or they expect it. They have shorter attention spans and they're really seeking connection.
And if you think about that list and you think about things that happened during their childhood, just think about how we stream and they don't watch commercials anymore. Think about the instant gratification there, the short attention spans, some of the things that we experienced in our childhood that built kind of that able to wait, be patient. Nothing in their world allowed them to build that patience piece. So this is a little video. I hope it, makes you chuckle a little bit. But if you think about Gen Z, this is very typical of what they have for an attitude towards work. They aren't necessarily not wanting to work, but they may not always want to put the same level of work in that maybe they saw their parents do, and he'll explain a little bit why.
This may be controversial, but I'm trying to descend the corporate ladder. I just think it's better for mental health. Some people want to be manager, and that's okay. Everyone deserves the opportunity to get chewed out by the CEO directly. But the only team I want to be responsible for is my plants. My goal for the next 30 days is to not wake up from a dream about my job. I don't want to get promoted, make more money, and then have to spend that money on more therapy and food because I'm stressed about my job. The only wheel I want to reinvent is work hard, play hard. How about work medium, play medium?
Work medium,
Okay.
play medium. That is Gen Z in a
The
nutshell.
balance.
That work-life balance, right? So why are we struggling so much with especially our later millennials and our Gen Zers? And we love research and love to hear the why behind things. And so what we have found is that there are two huge social factors that are shaping or not shaping these generations. And the two things is less kiddos are growing up with their parents and grandparents super close. We're seeing obviously more and more single family living, as well as grandparents not being just down the road in their community. Many of them don't even live in the same city or same state anymore, where that used to be a norm. And you think about all of the things that your grandparents did for your childhood. They reminded you to say thank you. They reminded you to say please. They helped you refine your social game. The other thing that is not happening is that less and less kiddos are growing up in small towns. And if you grew up in a small town like I did, you couldn't get away with anything because somebody was going to call your parent and let you know what you were doing. So there's just a lot less accountability. That social game is not nearly as refined. So they're coming into the workforce, much like that stone there, not polished, where we used to be getting generations that were much more polished with their social game. So a lot of times, what we are seeing is that we have to say things we thought we never would have to say. Like, this should be obvious. Why am I having to tell you this? And if you've experienced that, I'm sure you have felt the same way, where it's like, I shouldn't have to tell you to put away your phone in the meeting. You should just do that. But remember, they are coming in with way less refinement than any of us received in our childhoods.
So the remainder of this presentation, we're going to walk you through 5 shifts that we would try implementing in your organization. Now, these are just expectations. Our expectations should not change, but our approach may need to shift. So some of the things we might be bringing up, we're not telling you to like change any of your expectations. We're just trying to get you to maybe shift your approach a little bit and meet them where they're at.
Before we move into the shifts, are there questions about how Gen Z are shaped or generations work? You can throw it in the chat or feel free to turn your mic on.
Yeah, at any time you can throw a question in the chat as well.
All right, so the first shift that we're going to talk about is that Gen Z is seeking purpose, meaning, and connection. So things that they're looking for in a workplace are alignment with values, wanting to be part of something bigger, meaning that they're not just going to want to show up to work if there's not impact. They want to see that your company is into other things or a part of making something else better. Then we have social and community impact. Involvement with their community and those social issues are very important to them. So obviously companies who have that are going to be a workplace of choice. And then investment. They want to be mentored and they want to see a training program that will help them get to where they want to be. Bottom line is they're looking for more than just a paycheck. They're not looking for just a job anymore. They're looking for so much more. So some things to consider is some mentorship opportunities. How can you set up your company to allow for these relationships and these learning opportunities, both in and outside of work with other people in their workplace? They're really looking for places where they can build trust and have those open lines of communication. You can also help them teach the company way. concrete steps and actions. We talked about them not knowing what to do next or taking initiative and things like that. So making sure that they have a set of steps and actions and things for them to know what they're doing and when they need to do it is very, very helpful for them. And
remember their fear of taking risks. And so they'll sit sometimes and do nothing versus try something and potentially fail. And that is perceived as lazy all the time. We have that on our job sites. Why aren't you picking up a shovel and getting at it? Well, I didn't know if they wanted me to do that. So they'll just stand there while the other group is judging them as lazy.
And then also providing resources and access to information. Remember, they have had so much information at their fingertips for their entire life. So if they're, like Katie said, they're afraid to ask questions. So they're not going to come up to their manager and be like, I don't know how to do something. They're looking for a way to look up that information and find it on their own. So anytime you can provide resources or access to information via technology or through manuals or things like that is going to be really helpful for them. And then giving regular and specific feedback. They need and want to know when they're doing something right. For us, that can feel like really uncomfortable because it's like, why do they need to be praised for every little thing that they're doing? It's not so much that they're seeking praise, it's seeking that reassurance that they are doing the right thing and they're doing it to your expectation. So again, matching them with those mentors to, help them with all of those, teaching them like the routines and the activities and all of those expectations can be really, really helpful. One of the things that we talk about, in our other courses is shifting from an onboarding approach from like a transactional to transformational. So, and all of that comes down to building connection right away, like even before day one. When they are onboarding with your company, when they're coming in to fill out paperwork or get them set up prior to their first day on the job, we want to make sure that they are feeling that welcome and feeling that they are prepared and set up for success on their first day. So one of the things that you can do is get them set up with all of the technology that they're going to need, help them download their apps, sign in, log in, because again, on that day one, they're not going to want to ask the questions, how do I do this? Where do I find this? So doing like a proactive HR like Katie does is a really helpful way to get them set up for success. Another thing is we set them up with a gear package, just making sure that they have everything that they need to show up and be successful on that first day, whether it's tools, whether it's safety gear, whether it's all of the access to information, things like that. And then just making sure that you're introducing them to the team. So building team connection as well. Again, prior to that first day.
We're not throwing them to the wolves. I think
yes.
That's been a traditional in both of our industries. It's kind of like trial by fire. And that doesn't appeal to this new generation. They want to be invested in prior to starting. So again, reducing their anxiety about joining our industry.
Yeah. Something so simple as like connecting names with faces. So getting them set up with a chart of who's who on the job. Katie mentions, you want to share your story about?
Yeah, when I first started teaching, there were 40 some teachers in our building. And I remember people talking to me and I would have no idea who they were. And then going back to the front of the building where they had everybody's pictures and names. So then I could put a name to a face and make that association. So I was like, oh, that's the third grade teacher. Okay, now I can, make that connection. We try to do the same thing digitally we use an app called GroupMe to do that communication. And we have headshots of everybody so that everyone can make those easy connections and start building relationships from the start. Not that awkwardness of, oh, I can't remember who that person is that talked to me.
Yeah, and if you don't have headshots for your team, maybe it's something as simple as getting them, a tour and showing them the main people that they're going to be working with on that first day. Doing it at that onboarding or that first time when you're setting them up for success. We talked a little bit about mentorship already, but just stressing the importance that they really, really are looking for mentorship opportunities in their workplaces. Mentorship can look lots of different ways, but these are some ideas for what your mentor can be responsible for. Obviously, shop and site tours for your industry. Shop where are the tools, where are the machines, where are the supplies, making sure that they know where to access all of those things that they need to do their job. Talking about the process and the manufacturing process throughout the day. Where's the painting, where's the welding, where's all the things happening, can help them. Next, we have daily routines and activities. We talked about the company way. What is expected and what are those tolerated behaviors that are happening in your company? You want to shut down all of the things that are not tolerated right away, and that mentor can help do that. Having variations in mentors and site types. We do this at our company, just given the fact that we do residential and commercial work. But making them have experience in all areas. Maybe it's the powder coating one day, maybe it's the welding the next, like getting them exposed and gaining experience on all different areas will help them find, where they fit in best. Then we have consider matching based on personality. We do personality typing at DW, and this is something really important to us as the Repurposed Educator. And we just believe that matching them with personalities can help with the communication styles, with the conflict resolution styles, just kind of knowing the ins and outs of what to expect. Make sure that you have a pre-meeting with the mentor and prep them for that mentorship. Make sure that mentor has expectations and has things that they are responsible for, setting up your mentor for success as well. And then mentorship accountability, making sure that there's check-ins and site visits. Again, this mentorship is not just like introductory and, hey, we did all these things, now go. It's an ongoing process. It's several weeks long. It's a relationship that is built and then fostered throughout the next several weeks.
More frequent in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing that we really talk about with our mentors is they're the coach, okay? They're there to coach them, to make them just as good as them or better, because that means then the coach is opening up opportunities to grow within the organization. You want to teach them so good and make them so great that you have a team that continues to grow together. You think about joining the Vikings team, they don't have you come on and say, like, throw you to the wolves. They're there to coach you and to help you become the very best player there. We need our mentorship to have that same exact mindset. And that comes with a training within our organization and within our mentorship program.
Then we have informal conversations, and these are just parts of those check-in processes along the way, making sure that it's happening regularly and more frequent at the beginning of their experience at your workplace, and then obviously tapered down to as needed. But these conversations can really elicit more information about what's going well, what parts of the job that they like, what parts of the job that they don't like, what information they might need more of, things like that. And we have lots of tools that can help with those conversations and mentorship opportunities.
I think what, especially in our industry, as well as yours, you don't want the mentorship to look like, so how's it going? Fine. Cool.
Great.
And we walk away, right? Like that's traditionally what happens. we really provide tools and resources and training for all of our team members of how to do those check-ins. We have lots of different resources that they can access digitally. And there's an expectation that they do check in. They check in more than just, how's it going? Okay. They need to know how things are really going. So you'll see in that corner of the slide there, some very specific questions, because many of them are like, well, I don't know how to ask that, or I don't know what to ask. And teaching them how to utilize more open-ended questions to elicit a conversation rather than it just shutting down after how you doing. Okay, remember that those gems I talked about, those expectations need to be extremely clear, because they don't come with their social game nearly as refined as many of the earlier generations. So they need everything explicit. They're looking for clear definitions of success. They want predictability, consistency, realistic timelines and deadlines, and a culture of accountability. They really want things defined up front rather than kind of that trial and error, or you just kind of figure it out as you go. They want things set in stone when they start. So how do we do that within Repurposed Educator and DW companies? We set those expectations very, very clear. Starting with our handbook, we approach our handbook to have very, very specific. It is not a general, typical team member handbook. We have very unique things in there, down to what our expectations of you wearing our brand, how you interact on social media, etc. Two other things that you'll see on the screen here are things that have driven a more successful team and a safer team. So right now we're doing a safety bonus that we created with our team members. Last year, we actually had a kind of a rough go with avoidable mistakes and things that were happening because we weren't following protocols, we weren't reporting things, we weren't paying attention. And so what we did is we sat down with our team and we talked about all of the things we did and the amount of money. And I think it was upwards towards $80,000 worth of avoidable mistakes that our team made last year. So we implemented this safety bonus that happens quarterly. And basically they're given a set amount of dollars, and any of these that are broken, for say, there's a deduction towards their safety bonus. We pay them out twice a year, but it's the emphasis on what we want them. We want to tell them like, hey, I'd rather pay you the money than pay it out in avoidable mistakes, right? Like let's empower them to be in charge of those dollars. And I can say that we are down 90% in avoidable mistakes compared to last year. And that was just 1 year of implementing this. It's just brought a lot more awareness to what our expectations are. Even though they're in our handbook, when you tie a few dollars to it, it just has a different punch. The next thing you'll see there is a performance rubric. And that basically is, we have different categories that align with our goals as a company, as well as our values. And we talk about what does that look like at level 1, level 2, level 3. You think about these newer generations, millennials and Gen Zers, that they just came out of a school system that told them, this is what you do to get an A, this is what you do to get a B, this is what you do to get a C, and so on. But then they come to our world and they have no idea what that looks like. And again, they're less socially refined, so they miss a lot of things that we would say are workplace clues there, and they miss it. So we like literally lay it out for them. This is what it looks like for performance, work ethic and attitude, community impact, and professional learning. And we're tying those two bottom things are probably not as common to tie a performance to, but we really want them involved in our community. And we have expectations around that, as well as their professional learning. They take place in professional development. They take place in career conversations and things that help them grow professionally. And so basically, this is tied to their end of the year bonus. So if they had a $3,000 bonus coming and they got they got 90% on their performance rubric, they would get 90% of that $3,000. So this is above and beyond their safety bonus, but just another way to make it very clear. We don't just show this to them now, we literally practice it. Like they will have to meet at a PD day and they have to give each other feedback on one another, strategically paired. Fully understand this rubric. It's not something we just implement and say, check the box. It's an active part of our conversations on regular team member check-ins, as well as during our professional development days.
Are there any questions thus far on seeking purpose, connection, meaning, or on expectations and having clear expectations?
Is anybody doing a rubric or type of very clear set of what my expectations are for you? Those are all templates and things that we have available if you are interested in something like that or working with us further. Our whole goal at Repurposed Educator is to provide these things so that you don't have to start or recreate the wheel. You can take the things that we've created and customize them to your own organization.
Someone says they set annual expectations during their reviews.
Sure.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Gen Zers are financially anxious. Thank you, Amy. Gen Zers are financially anxious based on that Great Recession, that formed them. So they are really worried about where the money is coming from, how much they're getting. They want to know exactly what they're going to be paid. So they're looking for that transparency in pay and in benefits. Rye actually has a really cool story when he went to the school with Todd and the kids were asking about.
Oh yeah. Right? Yeah. That struck me off guard because like when I was in high school, I could care less about benefits. It was years and years down the road, but recently we were giving a classroom presentation and literally so many of the students had questions about pay and then what do benefits look like. They're already starting to think about that financial piece years down the road, which I think is a lot different than former generations before them.
Yeah.
I think what was told to us is that if you work hard, you do the right things, you go to college, you get a good job, and you will be just fine. They saw their parents not be fine. They saw parents lose jobs, lose their houses in the Great Recession. So they don't necessarily believe that anymore. And so they are really looking for what is this all going to offer me?
Yeah. So that shift is going from at least I have a job to how much does this job pay?
They want to know. Right. And they're not afraid to ask that. Whereas, that was one of the things we were told when we were interviewing, like, you never ask how much does this job pay? And that will be one of their first questions. And that's just to tie it back to they're thinking about it and they're anxious about it because of what they saw through their upbringing.
So what can we do to help with this? These are just some things to consider. Again, pay transparency. Clear is kind. So the more transparent you can be with them, the more that they are leveled out in their anxiety, helping them see the bigger picture. Katie is going to touch on that a little bit more in a little bit, as well as financial literacy. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into that in a little bit, helping them learn what to do with their money, how to budget, things like that, as well as provide other resources for them as far as mental health to help with the anxiety as well. And to the right of your screen, you'll see a text that Katie got. Katie, do you want to touch on this a little bit? Because it's actually really cool.
So I think it just goes to show this Gen Zer, he was getting ready to move and he was thinking about, okay, well, if I don't get overtime, which they generally do, he wants to know what a rough estimate of an 80-hour paycheck with taxes and everything taken out. He wanted to make sure that he can afford that he wasn't getting over his head. And then like being able to supply that kind of information to them is so important because they have so much financial anxiety. They feel like, oh, I just don't know if I can make this decision. So helping them through that, and we'll talk about some more ways to help them through that kind of financial literacy piece as an organization, will help them be more committed. If they're not stressed about money, they're not stressed about some of the choices that they're making financially, they show up better on the job site for us.
Not to mention not even knowing how to figure that out.
Right.
Yeah, he has no idea. I think it's also important to note here that indirectly you can kind of see that the more transparent you are, it shows that you care. The fact that this team member was trusting Katie enough to text her this speaks volumes.
So these are some of the ways that we help other organizations, and we have implemented here at DW, of really making sure they understand all of the things. If you give them a list of benefits typed out on a piece of paper, they are going to disengage in 3 seconds. Okay, so how can you visually show what you are offering? We go over this at an interview. I go over this again when a job offer is made, and then again in their onboarding process. They need to fully understand all of the things that you're offering. Remember, they're looking for more than just a paycheck. They're looking for things that are offered. You'll notice that I have growth on there. I emphasize that we have mentoring and professional development that supports professional and personal growth. It's important to show those pieces because they are looking for that. The other ways during the onboarding process, as well as the offer, I show them their yearly pay. What does their yearly pay look like? What does their hourly pay? We all have probably lost team members that will go to a manufacturing company next door or a business next door and make $2 more an hour and really have no idea that they were actually making more money within your organization based on all the things that you were providing for them. So my team members see a yearly pay breakdown once a year at the end of the year. And then they also see their hourly breakdown. It's so important for them to understand that health and dental and HSA and sick and safe time and holiday pay, all of those things cost money. Those are not free to the company for them to be given. They have to understand the value of each one of those things. So in this example, their hourly pay was $30 an hour. But if you look at all of the things that we provide, it's actually over $58 an hour. And they need to be able to see that because they just don't have the knowledge base to see that bigger picture on their own. Another thing that we have put together, and again, these are all templates that you have access to if you go to our website. This one is, how do we help them have access to good quality resources? So we spent some time as a group researching local, high quality, vetted out places around telehealth, substance abuse, mental health, financial health, domestic abuse, and family planning. They remember are an anxious group. They're looking for support. They know that their entire life they could access information, but we've also become an information overload system where we Google things and we hardly even know what is good and what is not anymore. So we have spent some time to build these resources and help them understand resources that they can access locally. Some things are directly tied to our insurance or programs that we have, and some are completely unrelated. We spend a lot of time talking about these things in professional development so they know how to access and utilize these things. Again, you're showing them that you are investing them far beyond just their production, that you care about them as a whole person. We also, once a year, usually in our winter PD, is that we go over financial literacy. We talk about, what does it actually look like to pay a credit card off if you don't pay it off in full? What are some tips in when you are dealing with debt? And then we have some local and then some internet type resources out there to help them become a lot more savvy in their financial literacy. And many of us are probably thinking, why is that our job? Again, we are trying to be competitive And we want to be the employer of choice. So we are providing these things, we are offering these things to help them become more knowledgeable. And again, if they're less anxious about these things, they're less distracted on the job site for you. So questions about that one? That one's a kind of a big, hefty one with lots of resources and lots of things. Any questions about how we utilize these or how we created these?
Great, we'll go on to Gen Z is tech savvy. We all know it.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, Bradley has a question. Have you ever completed a cost benefit analysis on the investment made for this program?
Well, what I can tell you, and we don't cover in this slideshow, is that our average profit margins are around 30%, and the average in our industry is like 8 to 10. So that in itself has been enough for us to feel the value. We also have 0 OSHA violations. We have an extremely low turnover. We have a team of the hardest group of generation to employ, where I talked about that we have mainly a team of millennials and Gen Zs, as well as we have a ton of repeat work based on how our people interact with our customers.
Yes,
so
did that margin increase with this program?
Well, this program was built completely from the start of DW. So I can't say that we did it, we didn't do it, but I can tell you that what my husband did with the company he worked at before, and their profit margins were very different. And the core people that left there are here, and that's the difference in that piece. But yeah, everything's been built from the ground up as we started here.
And Amy wants to know, how do you choose your resources for the TMAR? Like, for example, Dave Ramsey. How do we choose our resources?
We just tried to find good vetted things that have solid programs that people have either used within our team or have experience with, or we've just personally went out and did some research on them. I feel like that, like, especially like Dave Ramsey and Khan Academy, they both have a very strong set of tools and resources for people to actually go and use that are free or very close to free. Mm-hmm. And again, I'm trying to give them access to things that they would actually maybe go to and utilize.
Mm-hmm. Okay. We also asked the people who are comfortable sharing, such as myself, gave some pointers as to where we've been for things too that are local.
Great. For the sake of time, we're going to move on. Gen Z is tech savvy. We all know this. So what they're looking for is companies that have technology integration, lots of access points to information, and then utilizing other modes of communication. So remember that technology is actually part of their identity. They lived their whole life with the internet. They've seen iPhone after iPhone after iPhone being distributed each year as they've grown up. So ways that you can incorporate technology into your workplace is utilizing some of the technology and apps. We've hit on lots of these bullets already. Lots of communication apps, they're not going to respond to messages, but they'll respond to Snapchat, or we've found some better luck with GroupMe. Again, we've associated that with a way to have them have their work-life balance. So all of their work correspondence is in app XYZ, and their messages are for their personal life. So again, it's part of that division of work-life balance. Having clear phone expectations and explaining the why. We have a couple of slides that will dig deeper into that. And then using technology or phones to your advantage. We'll also dig into that as well. So, okay. So
this is a way, these are just some of the resources that we have at DW companies for them to be able to access. They are digital as well as hard copy, but digital access is key because they, as we said earlier, they are more likely to not ask questions, but they want to find the answers on their own. So we did make the team member assistance resources electronic that you see there. as well as all of our service requests and incident reports and PTO requests are digital. And then the communication trees, it's important for them to know, as Rye said earlier, we have the headshots and the group me, but also here's a communication tree as to who do I call when for what. And then to get them ready for success prior to day one or anytime it's needed, we also have an on-site quick guide that is in our digital resources for any common formulas or equations or information they might need on the job site. They can just take a look right there and have it, or prepare for the job beforehand. So this is all housed in kind of a back website, right? Back website to our DW company's website, where it looks like an app on our phone, boom, easy access for them so that they are more successful and ready to go. And then, as Rye was already saying, use technology to your advantage. Gen Zers are so good with technology, it's crazy. They're already probably Snapchatting and making videos, so have them send you those videos of the job site, and then you can use that to social media. This could really up your social media game. Have them take pictures, they probably already are. Have them send them to your marketing person, you could use those. They could create material for your company, like we said, on social media, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you have your social media. To the left, you'll see a shared album. We have a shared album where they could just drop the pictures, and then Rye can use those. She's our marketing gal. She can use those at any time she would like to help with the company online. They can help you onboard new software. They could totally test that out and be your pilot for you and give you feedback on what's working and what's not. And then this younger generation could have that leadership role. They're craving something bigger, as I said before, so put them in that leadership role in technology.
Okay, so you guys are all asking, how do you control the phones though? But how, right? Like you have these very addicted team members to their phones. Yes, we can try to use that as their advantage, but then how do we also control that addiction or that need to constantly be on their phone? And we're going to play a quick little video that talks about why they are. And most of us in this chat are the reason why we caused this.
These kids won't get off their, well, why are they addicted to their cell phones? It couldn't be because we all bought them iPads for their 3rd birthday. And we jammed them in their hands every time we went to the Olive Garden, right? So that we could talk to the one person in our house we still liked. And we said, hey, little baby, here's a device that's as addictive as heroin. I hope it doesn't mess you up forever. But if it does, we'll blame you. No, you did that, right? When you decided to create a portable boredom cure and hand it to somebody at 1 year of age, every time they get remotely bored, you shove the boredom cure into their hands, and then you bring them to work, which is, P.S., by the way, mostly boring, right? And then you say, no, I'm going to need you to never reach for that boredom cure again. No, you did that, right? You gave them those. You made them highly addicted to them. You don't get to be mad about it now.
Yep, I see some nodding, right? Yes. And now they're in our workplace, and all of that generation is, the older generations are, upset about that, but a lot of that was caused by our own selfishness of not wanting to deal with the children. So if we look at how do we deal with that here at DW, again, those very clear expectations, establish what your guidelines are going to be, and make sure that you are having a level of accountability for. Talk about when is your phone acceptable and non-acceptable. That is so important for them to know when they can take phone calls and when they cannot. They should not be left open to decide when that happens, because then ultimately they make the bad choice, and then it causes problems within our teams. The frequency and length of calls permitted. Like, we all are going to have to call the doctor because a lot of times they're not open after we get done with work. So we have to do those things. But like, what does that frequency look like? And explain that to them. Are you going to allow headsets or earbuds? That was a hot topic in our organization, and our commercial sites have went to no headsets or earbuds because of the safety risks. And make it very clear that that's not acceptable, and help them understand the why. And then also, where do you store those personal devices? Is it okay to carry it on you? Is it not? Like, what are you going to establish as your norm within your organization? Remember, clear is kind. If you leave it up to them, that is very unkind. You are setting them up to fail. One of the things that I have done within our organization is I always try to help them understand why. I'm not just trying to be a sergeant. I'm not trying to be somebody that's difficult around your phone. I'm going to explain why it's important that you're not on your phone all of the time. So I took a study, and a study shows that employees spend an average of 42 minutes a day on their phones during work, equating to nearly 2 full work days lost per month. That's huge. We are in the production industry. Like, we have to produce, you guys have to produce, like things have to happen. And so explain that impact. So if we're spending 42 minutes on the average month of 20 work days, that's about 14 hours a month. And then you times it by your average salary, dollar per hour. Talk about what that potentially could be costing the organization, and how that potentially could then impact their ability to get raises, have bonuses, have new machines, etc. When there's not an endless well of money. And I think a lot of times when people are in businesses, they think that there is an endless a pot. And so wasting a little bit here and there. We want to make sure that we are the most productive, not only for team member accountability, but also like, we want to be able to give the money back to you. So let's not waste it in our production.
And last but not least, Gen Z is seeking that work-life balance, aren't we all? But they are by far the most, remember, work medium, play medium, right? So they're looking for companies that prioritize personal life, that offer a healthy work-life balance, which is very difficult in our production workforce, right? And then also has a bigger focus on mental health and well-being. So again, this is a shift from work to live versus live to work. So how do we actually do that in companies where production is our motto, right? So we need to be able to set realistic goals for productivity. Maybe we define or make goals that when those goals are met, we can be off early, or maybe we work hard Monday through Thursday, and Friday we get to be off a little bit early because of the extra hours that we put in Monday through Thursday. Maybe you have the ability to offer choices in the work schedule. Can they work 4/12s? Maybe they have the opportunity to provide input on what they want their schedule to look like. Ask them, what do we want our schedule to look like if we have to meet goals X, Y, Z? Offer a commitment bonus. That is one of the things that DW Companies offers for all of our Quick Trip crews. Quick Trip is very, very tight on their timelines, and it can be a lot of work and long hours for several weeks. And so our crews on those sites get a extra little bonus to help them get through the grind of that. And then making sure that we're transparent. Remember, Katie just said, clear is kind. If you have a really high production goal that needs to be met and there's going to be extra hours, tell them that. Make sure that they know that there's a change in the schedule, or maybe an increase in hours for an unforeseeable amount of time or a foreseeable amount of time, and how that project schedule might affect them. Again, just that transparency is huge.
Other considerations, you could encourage time off with, boundaries for success. For example, like we have here at DW Companies that no more than 2 people in the office can be gone, or no 2 people on a team can be gone at one time. And how we can help keep track of that is that we have a shared team calendar, so that you can see who has off when and try to go around those. Of course, Katie and Steve are great about, letting us do, or allowing us, if at all possible, to need off when we have off. But encourage that time off with guidelines, and also offer opportunities where you can show that you understand they have a life outside of work. One thing here at DW Companies that we do that makes me tear up every year is Katie and Steve allow, if you wish, 2 hours of PTO for the first day of school, so that you can get your kids on the bus and see them off, which is something that's very unique and very special, and they understand that, like, work-life balance.
All right, one more quick video from our friend Kristen here, and then we're gonna wrap things up for questions.
So here's the big thing I hear. Again, doesn't matter where I go in the country, there will be somebody that will look at me and say, ugh, Kristen, those millennials and their participation trophies. Who bought the participation trophies? That would be you. You did that. You now 60-year-old hippies went down to the PTA and said, competition's getting too intense. I want my baby child to frolic, right? And you decided to give people trophies for being the worst player on the worst team, on the worst league in the city, only showing up to 1 out of the 12 required games, right? And so here's what happens. Now you're all walking around like, these kids today are so entitled. They think just because they showed up to work for a couple of weeks in a row that they deserve a promotion. Well, y'all, it worked for 18 years of soccer. I don't know why it wouldn't work now, right? The bottom line is you did that.
So the big question is Gen Z entitled? And I guess that kind of wraps up our presentation, but just making sure that you understand the why behind why they may be showing up like that. They've lived their whole life, you know, with a constant turnover and new things in their faces and participation trophies just for showing up. So the biggest thing to take away here is that our expectations should not change, but our approach might. Anything else to wrap up?
No.
All right. Sorry, we went a little over time, but if there's any questions.
There's no questions, and you can continue to put questions in there, but we also would like to know what's one thing you'll be more mindful of when you are working directly with Gen Zs. Like, what might be a shift that you're considering in your own organization after this presentation?
Thank you, Amy. She
Thanks,
said
Amy.
it was great info. Thank you so much. And then feel free to visit our website. A lot of the resources and tools that we have talked about today are available on our website. And we'd love to hear from you. So reach out whenever.
We do have a peer group starting after the new year. So if this types of things intrigue you, this more proactive HR culture stuff excites you, we have peer groups that will be starting. So feel free to reach out and we can get you that information.
Riley, good luck with your implementation. Reach out to us if you need any recommendations on apps and what has worked or not worked for us.
Yeah, and Amy says, I forget that they have so much anxiety about everything and are more apprehensive than lazy.
Absolutely.
Well, all right, then I think, are you guys ready to wrap up?
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you for all that great information. I learned so much. It was really, really awesome. I will go ahead and post the recording of this on our YouTube channel and share it with all the people that registered. But if any of you know someone that would benefit from this, please send them our way, or I'll be happy to pass along the link. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
all right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks.